Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of fascinating things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and a cage announcer, and I'm joined by my two buddies who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing to you first from New York, he is Mark Priaulx. What's up, man?
What's up, boys? Got my yawn out of the way early right there, so I hopefully don't get yelled at for yawning. I'll try my best. Yeah, happy to be back. Didn't feel right having to go a week without talking MMA with you guys. It was definitely odd. So, yeah, happy to be back on the show. If I may, can I give some very brief thoughts on what I missed last week?
Please do.
The floor is yours.
Max Holloway is the man. I can't tell if he showed off improved power or if Zombie's chin is just done zombieing at this point. But Max looked really freaking dangerous. Yeah. But he did get hit like fairly clean a lot, which is kind of an interesting thing to note that I'll keep in mind going into his next fight. And Zombie will be missed, man. The guy's an absolute stud, true fans fighter. Always delivered the entertainment. I loved the little scene he got with the crowd singing along on his way out. That was cool. And then just briefly on the other fights, I agreed with you guys. Anthony Smith won that fight. Spann had his chance, and he let Smith off the hook. And then his post-fight reaction annoyed the hell out of me. Giga versus Caceres was awesome. I loved watching that fight. Technique through the roof. Really competitive too, but Giga did edge it. And then Erin Blanchfield is very good, man. She seems like she wants it more. She has zero quit in her, and like she's just gonna find a way unless someone stops her. It feels like it almost feels like someone needs to put her out, or she's just gonna like power through by the time the bell rings.
Has she ever been finished in the UFC? I don't think so. I don't think she's ever been
lost.
finished.
Isn't she undefeated?
Yeah, she's never lost.
Yeah.
No, she's never lost, period. Oh, did she?
She does have a loss. Who beat her?
I thought she was 13-0 or
she
some
lost to Tracy
12
Cortez.
and 1. Oh, Tracy Cortez. I knew that by
And
split.
Invicta.
Oh.
Yeah, by split and Invicta. Yeah.
I've never even seen her in trouble in the UFC, but that was a tough fight for her, though. That was a tough fight for her.
I mean, the first round was a little
she
worrisome.
lost the round, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the first round was a little worrisome for her, and I said it last week when we were doing the podcast that her range striking needs a little work there. Her infighting, her infighting though, her clinch work, her ground work, all that is disgusting. But that range fighting, she got pieced up at range, 100%.
Yeah, it looked so good when she was fighting some shorter girls. But then you put her against someone where she was the shorter girl, all of a sudden it didn't look so good. So,
Not only that, but Tyler Santos is also bigger than her and more athletic than her, and I would say probably has more crack on her punches. And Tyler Santos throws fucking heaters.
I mean, you could see the difference in the skill and the technique when it came to the striking. Like that's what Tyler Santos does. Erin Blanchfield added striking to a ground game, and it's very obvious. And obviously, Erin Blanchfield is there to scrap and she's there to crack, but how she manages her distance with her striking, at least in that fight against somebody who probably has been doing it for years, it was evident that she didn't really feel that comfortable doing it. But once she got inside, man, she's a problem.
She knows how to win fights, and she'll go anywhere to do it. Like she was very consciously like, all right, I'm gonna have to just clinch the fuck out of this girl for a while, and I'm gonna turn the tide in my favor. And like she had no issues doing that, and it worked.
Yep.
That concludes episode 109.5 or 0.2. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about this week. Oh, let me introduce the third man in the ring. In Florida, the Sunshine State. He is the Nicaraguan Nightmare, Omar Artola.
What's up,
hey, buddy. What's up, man?
So I was just talking to you guys about how I was started making running part of my thing now.
Poor choices, poor life choices.
It's facts. But I'm doing it now in my skimpy shorts, in my little slutty shorts.
Oh, nice.
In your Muay Thai shorts?
You're a true fighter.
I'm out there. I'm one wrong trip away from just being dick out while I'm running. Like it's we got some Skippy stuff going on there.
There's a guy in my neighborhood who's like a pretty big deal Instagram influencer fitness person. I forget how many followers he has, but it's like fucking huge. And I see him running all the time. And he literally wears no shirt, just sneakers and shorts that might be 4 inches long. Like I feel like I'm seeing a naked guy run past my house.
I feel like
it's very strange.
Even before, because like men's style with shorts has definitely like shortened the shorts, but I feel like runner shorts were always like that. Like true like diehard runners always wore tiny shorts.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, they always had skinny legs though. My legs have become quite thick in recent times now. So
dude, I would rock. Yeah, I would rock those shorts, but my legs are so skinny. I have chicken legs.
My wife and I have talked about getting some slutty swimwear for myself for this cruise in December. No one knows us.
They're just far too pale. Like the upper leg doesn't see the sun. I'd have to pre-prep them with some tan before I rock those shorts.
Just see Mark somewhere with the spray on tan.
Yeah, bro. So I'm still coming down from the high that was this past weekend. APFC 7, APFC Indiana Fight Night 2. It was funny because they had like they called it like 3 different names. It was Indiana 2, Indiana Fight Night 2, and APFC 7. Whatever
so just like the UFC.
Yes. Yes. UFC on ESPN 92, UFC Fight Night 197.
Yeah, and then the names.
UFC London, UFC Vegas,
Mike
whatever.
No more.
Yeah, right. But whatever you call it, man, it was a great night overall. We had a ton of tech issues. Being the number one was that there was like no sound guy because the venue was like, oh, we thought you guys were going to bring your own sound guy, and APFC was like, what are you talking about? Apparently, this is what I heard, was that they were like, the venue, whatever venue you go to, venues always have their own sound system and their own sound guy. Like, that's part of it.
Because it's built into the venue.
Yes. So for this venue to just not have one, I basically used what I think somebody told me it was like the PA mic of the building, of like the God mic.
Hell.
It did not sound good. It did not. It was pretty terrible. In the first like 5 fights, dude, it wasn't even working.
Oh my God.
I had to announce these 2 guys where at the beginning I was supposed to intro them. I had my earpiece in. They throw to me in the cage, and my mic is just not working.
Oh my God.
It's on, like on the switch. I flipped it to the on position. The little light on the microphone handle is green, like it's on.
Right.
And I talk into it, and nothing's coming out, and I feel like such an asshole. And I'm doing it again. I'm like, maybe it'll come on now. Another 3 seconds later, nope. Dude, I'm just standing there for 30 seconds. It felt like 2 minutes. So finally I said, fuck it. And I just tried to just bellow out the intros for these 2 guys. Like it was freaking Greek theater in like 800 BC.
Jeez.
It was pretty embarrassing.
Got to hit the God voice, man. Sometimes you got to get full crazy on it.
Dude, thank God the mic did eventually start working consistently, and for the second half of the night it worked pretty much the whole time, but it still didn't sound great in the arena, but they said that on the broadcast it sounded okay, so that's all that mattered. Oh, the other thing is that the building didn't have an air conditioner system, so it was like 100 degrees.
Holy God, shit.
Jeez. Crazy. Man.
No wonder you were like starting to look like you were getting naked in those pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man.
Shirt started coming off. All these things started coming off. It's like 100+ degrees in there. That's crazy.
But dude, the highlights of the night were obviously like all the freaking legends that were there. We had Bilal Muhammad doing color for the first time. It was his first time doing color. He was great. Such a nice guy. Such a good guy. Sweating bullets. I mean, the guy was covered. He looks like he took a dip in a freaking lake. Him and Jason Anik, John Anik's brother, also tried his hand at play-by-play for the first time.
How weird was it looking at Jason Anik and having to tell your mind that it wasn't John Anik?
Yeah. Dead ringer, like, man. Identical
I feel like
twins.
I would really struggle to keep telling myself it's not John Anik.
Like the man bun is like a disturbingly aggressive difference between one and the other. You know? It's so weird looking at Jason Anik.
But both of those guys could not be nice. Jason Anik might be the nicest dude I've ever met. Like, such a great dude. Like, takes an interest to everybody, not a mean bone in his body. Such a nice guy. Who else was there? Juliana Pena was there. I got to meet Juliana Pena.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
She was there. Christian Rodriguez was supposed to be there again. He didn't show up. Sergio was supposed to be there again. He couldn't make it. But obviously Anthony was there. And the man of the hour
was there.
The guest of honor, Cain Velasquez, was the special guest host. I got to do an intro for him. He came into the cage, said a few things to the Hammond, Indiana crowd with Anthony. So a night to remember.
But the question that everyone I was gonna say, Mark already fucking knows the question we all want to know. The thing all of our listeners have been dying to know.
Yeah.
Did you give him the thumbs up?
I did not.
Okay.
I learned from my past.
Okay.
And I did my intro, and I did not immediately just like go to hand him the microphone and then like back away with the thumbs up with the same hand. I did my intro. I always hold my mic. In my right hand. I transferred my microphone to my left hand.
Graduation
and I then,
baby.
Before I even give him the mic, give him the mic, the mic stays with me, and I offer my hand for a handshake.
There it is.
And then the microphone, and then double thumbs up.
There it is.
I
like it.
Love it.
Man. Yeah. So that was cool. Inaugural APFC middleweight champion was crowned. Kevin Novacek. He's now his record is now like 21-6 or something like that. Like, the dude's good, man. And he
saw a couple of the highlights from
on
Instagram. There's some violent shit going on over there.
Yeah, dude, a ton of finishes, a ton of first round finishes too. All right, well, that was my weekend. I'm home with the kids, the family, and we're doing another show tonight. So let's get into this. So we're going to talk about all the fights from this past weekend's UFC Fight Night: Gane versus Spivac. We're going to throw a bunch of these fights into our lightning round. We're going to find out who rose and fell in Mark's rankings. We're going to go inside the MMA Sphere with Omar and find out what's new in the world of MMA going on outside of the cages. And then we're going to look ahead to this coming weekend's pay-per-view UFC 293 Adesanya versus Strickland. Before we get into any fight talk that is relevant to this week's episode, let us first address our audience. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, thank you so much. If you haven't done so yet, if you've been watching a bunch of our clips and videos, and if you like what you've been watching, please subscribe to our channel so that you'll never miss another episode or clip. Give us a thumbs up. That helps us out so much with all the algorithm things. If you like any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. And if you disagree with any of our takes, we want to hear your take down in the comments below. As always, please keep it classy. If you want audio only, we got you. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, find us on social media. You can find us on all the socials at @andnew_MMA show. All right, enough chit-chat. Let's get to the meat of this episode. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Ciryl Gane, who this past weekend at UFC Fight Night, Gane versus Spivac in front of 15,000 at the Accor Arena in Paris, France, finished Serghei Spivac by TKO. The official time, 3:44 of round number 2 in a 5-round bout. Mark, start us off here. Give us your take of this very impressive bounce-back win by Ciryl Gane.
I wish I had been able to be on the show last week because I would have looked pretty smart, because I swear this is exactly how I would have described this fight. I know I did leave my pick of Gane by 3rd round TKO. It went a little quicker than I thought, but it really looked just how I envisioned it would. And it's because I didn't think Serghei Spivac was the right type of grappler to trouble Ciryl Gane. As much as he's had these deficiencies in his grappling that have been exposed by certain guys, I didn't think Spivac was that guy. And it's for two main reasons. One, he doesn't shoot. He needs to clinch to initiate his takedown game. And it's really hard to track down Ciryl Gane for clinch situations when you can't close that distance quickly with a shot-type takedown. Or if you can't, which is my point number 2, offer a striking threat, which Spivac does not. So I just didn't see how he'd get to Gane to clinch him without getting hurt. Like, even in Ngannou's wrestling success, it was because of the fact that he also posed a threat on the feet. So he was able to be catching Gane off guard with some takedowns and things like that. In this situation, as long as Gane could hold off the clinch, he didn't really have a lot of reason to be worried, in my opinion, about this matchup. And he fought very smart because he avoided exactly that. For most of this fight, almost all of what he threw was with his weight on his back foot, if you rewatch that fight. Nothing was sending him forward ever with the impact of any of his strikes that he was throwing towards Spivac where he could be grabbed. Really, until he knew he hurt him to the body at the start of that finishing sequence. That's when he finally said, like, okay, I can go a bit. And you saw some more weight coming behind his strikes. And he was just surgical in the finish, man. He kept the range. He still made sure Spivac couldn't hug him, but he also didn't let him breathe, and he put him out. And Felder used the phrase, it was a flawless victory, really, for Ciryl Gane. A huge, huge statement for him to bounce back off of how he looked in his last fight.
Dude, he made me look bad. Omar, let's bring you in here. What are your thoughts on how he got this finish? That's right, we both took Spivac.
Yeah, Spivac's a chooch. He made us both look bad. It was a crazy performance, man. I really did not have Spivac doing jack shit for 3 rounds in the bingo card. I mean, even the what was it, like 15 strikes to 100 some odd strikes, something crazy like that, the differential between the two. And those 15 strikes, I don't even know if they were even purposeful strikes. I think those were the ones that he just got caught up against the cage and started winging shots and hoping something was going to land. And a couple of times he touched Gane every now and again, but nothing that was significant, nothing that had any weight behind it. No. And Gane ate him up, man, from bell to bell. It was kind of a ridiculous performance and a good one for Gane, especially to kind of put any doubters hopefully to bed. I still think the takedown defense is sketchy. He didn't necessarily prove us wrong in this situation. He just never allowed it to get there in the first place.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're, best takedown defense is not having to use it at all, so good on him.
Right.
But it was a good performance from him, man. The striking is clean. His distance management is absolutely insane. The power that he possesses in such a mobile frame, I think, is really impressive. So hopefully we see more of this Gane. And if he runs into another wrestler, I'm really interested to see if he can repeat some of these kind of same advances it seems like he's made in his game.
Dude, I was so disappointed in Serghei Spivac, man. I made my pick fairly confidently last week, and I have egg on my face. Mark, you make a valid point that Spivac is not a double-legger, and that he usually secures takedowns from first getting to a clinch position, and you're right, that is true. But I thought that he was going to pursue that position and try to initiate that whole process with more aggression. He allowed himself, I thought, to just kind of get frozen. I mean, look, easier said than done. I'm not standing in front of Ciryl Gane. That's a tall task. But I thought that he was at least going to just try to make something happen a little bit more. But he allowed it to become a Ciryl Gane fight. And Ciryl Gane in Ciryl Gane fights is batting 1,000, man. He just let Ciryl Gane just like play long distance sniping for 2 rounds until he got picked apart and damaged enough, and Ciryl smelled blood in the water and he went in for the finish, man.
I think that's really the difference is Spivac could probably do better against somebody who wings their punches, somebody who throws really long looping hooks and he can catch them, he can block them relatively well. Gane is the dude that throws them down the middle and can break through your guard. He's surgical with the way that he fights, and he's very purposeful with how he throws his punches. And I just think you could see by the end of the fight that Spivac wasn't even the same color he was when he started that fight. His whole body was fucked up. His face was fucked up. His body was messed up. He had welts on his ribs. I mean, he was destroyed by the end of that fight. And I don't know if you've ever watched The Three Ninjas, but it's not a great movie. It's not really worth the rewatch if you haven't watched it. It does not hold up. But the point is, there's a part in there it does not. It's a terrible movie. But they have this dummy in this movie where when you hit it in the right spot, it lights up. The eyes light up, and that's how he teaches the kids the right places to hit. I'm pretty sure a lot of that is bullshit. But my point in that is that every time Serghei Spivac was getting hit by Ciryl Gane, it looked like his eyes were just lighting up. I mean, every shot was nailing him clean. And Gane did a great job of mixing it up too, not just headhunting. He was cracking Spivac's body, right side, left side, down the middle, knees to the body, knees to the liver. I mean, he was...
Yeah.
Honestly, I think lesser men would have probably been stopped long before Spivac ended up getting stopped. So
that's a fair point.
It was a great performance from Gane. Spivac is a tough motherfucker, probably too tough for his own good, but what a crazy fight.
You got to look at Spivac's wins. Like, his big wins are Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa, Olynyk, Sakai. I don't know who else you want to put on this list. All those guys are guys who are there for you to crash into them and get a hold of them. Ciryl Gane is the direct opposite of that guy. And unless you have the kind of striking to stop his movement and to beat him to spots and to cut him off and to make him change his angles so that you can get a hold of him, that's the way that fight's going to look. And Serghei Spivac just does not have that. He has to be able to do the crash into you thing. And Ciryl Gane's not the guy to allow that.
The MMA math that I did was in his most recent victory, which was his biggest one to date over Derek Lewis. He finished him in the first round. He secured a takedown and finished him with an arm triangle choke in midway through the first round. And I thought, if a guy like Derek Lewis, who presents more danger than just about any heavyweight, if Spivac is like, very cool, I'm going to weather that storm, however brief or long it is, and I'm going to get you down on the ground, then I'm like, he's going to then get through whatever Ciryl Gane has to offer and get him to the ground. Because, I mean, Ciryl Gane maybe could be this guy if he wanted to be, because he's a giant. But he's not a guy who cracks you and puts you out with one shot. That's just not his game. But boy,
but
was
I think
I
that's
wrong.
what worked to his advantage. That's exactly why I think it worked. Is because he's able to, and as a heavyweight with 4-ounce gloves and the size of that man, the reality is it doesn't really take much for punches and kicks and knees to do a hell of a lot of damage without you having to throw 100% behind it. And Gane has a way of putting combos together. I mean, he's not hitting them one at a time. He's not trying to smash one at a time. He's hit you 3, 4, 5 times to the face, to the body, back up to the temple, back into your ribs. I mean, he was tearing Spivac up.
And there was points where Spivac was just standing in front of him. And again, I'm like, dude, if you if you charge through Derek Lewis without getting knocked out, I can't believe that he's like, whatever, that he wasn't like, again, I'm just making the same point again of just like, Ciryl Gane is not a guy who's going to knock you out with one punch. Like, go get him. You got to go get him. Got to go after
the angles, man. I think it's because Lewis hits you and Tai hits you and they're still in front of you if you can walk through it.
Right.
Gane hits you and he's gone.
Yeah.
I didn't just mean to
Look
Gane.
at you. Look at you.
Okay, let's talk about where these guys go from here. Let's talk about the winner, Ciryl Gane, Bon Gamin. Mark, what do you think? If you were the matchmaker, what is next for Mr. Gane? Is he waiting around for a title shot again, or does he need another win?
It's very hard to say where he goes from here. He's certainly not going directly to a title shot. Absolutely not. There's a couple other guys in this mix, but he is in this trio of himself, Tom Aspinall, and Serghei Pavlovich, who are all kind of hovering just outside of this Bones-Stipe title fight that we have coming up. And he could certainly end up fighting either one of Aspinall or Pavlovich. But if we're being honest, Aspinall and Pavlovich are probably the ones that should be fighting each other, considering Gane just had his title shot and lost. Mm-hmm. And if that does get booked, then I don't know exactly what you do with Ciryl Gane. I mean, maybe if Stipe loses to Bones, he could fight Stipe. I'm not sure if Stipe is even interested or how many more fights he plans on taking if he doesn't beat Bones. For all we know, that could be the end. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it could even end up that he has to fight like the winner of Curtis Blades and Jailton Almeida if Aspinall and Pavlovich is the fight that gets made. Like, he might be the odd man out potentially. So I don't know. I think we kind of got to see what they choose to do here. You wonder if they're just going to be like, Aspinall and Gane is so sexy that we're going to fuck Pavlovich here, but that feels wrong to me.
Yeah. What do you think, Omar?
So the only reason why I did go with Aspinall and and Gane is because Pavlovich is the backup fighter right now for Stipe and John. So he can't really be booked right now anyway. And Gane didn't really look like he took a ton of damage in that fight, if any at all. Aspinall, I feel like, is ready to go at this point. So timeline-wise, I feel like it works out a lot better than waiting to see what happens in November between all
I didn't
that.
really think about that. So when you agree to be a backup fighter, that means you're sacrificing being booked. I mean, obviously, but I didn't even think about that in my brain, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So Pavlovich can't be... And that fight's not till November.
Correct. Which means he probably... I mean, to be fair, he could fight, a couple weeks after that. But the other thing is that if he is a backup fighter, he has to weigh in.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's heavyweight, though. It's heavyweight.
But still, he's putting in camps thinking about fighting potentially Stipe or John, not Gane or Aspinall. Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe they do fucking make Gane Aspinall in December then, and
Exactly
Pavlovich just waits, or I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that angle of it.
Yep. And who knows? The way the cards have been shifted around, it's very possible that Gane and Aspinall get done maybe in New York.
I feel like also we've seen both. Just
So maybe
backtracking here a little bit. Speaking of Bones and Stipe, I feel like have we seen both of those guys kind of either hint at or say this is kind of the last one?
I haven't
Bones
seen
did.
Stipe in months.
he hasn't said a word other
Stipe
than
is-
I'm going to beat John Jones.
Right.
He's
He's in the firehouse. He's in the firehouse.
He threw a
guys.
tweet up 3 months ago, and we haven't heard shit since.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel like this would be the last one for Stipe. I think either way,
Really?
I do. I think if he loses, he walks away. But I also think if he wins, he walks away.
These guys
very
have been
well
out for so long that the heavyweight division, I feel like the whole era of the UFC has passed by so many of these guys just waiting in the wings for whatever it is that they're waiting for. And I just don't feel like it just doesn't seem like it even makes sense to fight all these younger guys. I don't think it even carries the same kind of power as it did when they were fighting the guys in their era, in their division,
For John, it does. I think if John
I
beats
agree.
Stipe, for him to then knock off a Pavlovich and an Aspinall, I think makes his resume beyond legendary.
Yeah,
But I think that's it, right?
It's kind of over.
Yeah, but I think that's
Even if
it,
he
right?
wins,
All he needs is Stipe, or all he needs is Aspinall and Pavlovich, and then literally John Jones will have nothing more to do. Maybe Almeida, but
Manon would be a crazy test for John Jones.
And
dude.
you could say the same for Stipe, that those kind of things would make his resume crazy. But
I was
feel
just gonna say,
I feel like he's more at the end for some reason than I don't know. I don't see him doing all that.
I also think the clout is different when it's John Jones and Stipe. Stipe, we can argue about greatest heavyweight of all time and the credentials that come with that and why he's the greatest of all time. But if you look at overall resume, overall everything, John Jones is still the one that everyone's trying. He's the Mount Everest, right? He's the one everyone's trying to climb to the top of.
And
More
Stipe's
so than
41,
Stipe.
frankly.
Yes,
John ain't nearly as old.
but I think both Stipe
He's
and
not
John.
that much younger. He's what, 37, 36, something like that?
I was going to
John?
say 6 maybe.
Yeah,
He's got to be about
36,
5 years
6 or
younger.
37.
Yeah.
But I think Stipe and John both are not just fighting for the title, but for a lot of legacy. Because I think if John beats Stipe,
Yes.
he's
36.
like, if John beats Stipe, he's like, that's it, case closed, at least for now. I'm the GOAT. I'm the greatest. But if Stipe beats John, I think Stipe says, case closed, I'm the greatest heavyweight ever.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree too. And to be honest, for Stipe, in Stipe's standpoint, beating John, why the fuck would you need to fight anybody else? That's it. MMA math wins right there.
Yeah.
He'd be the first guy to ever do it. Ever.
And very well the only guy to ever do it.
But I don't think
Well,
so.
hey.
Okay, let's
sounds
talk
like
about...
We just figured out we might get Gane Aspinall, and I would be fucking pumped for that fight. And Tom Aspinall would tap him out.
Let's talk about Mr. Spivac. Omar, looking at the landscape of the heavyweight division, what do you think could be next for Spivac coming off this loss?
So this was I think we can all kind of agree, a relatively shitty performance. So I'm not really looking to give him anything. I think he kind of needs to prove a little something at this point. So I think a fight with Dontel Mays would be very interesting. Gives Dontel Mays kind of a leg up there, a potential opportunity, and it gives Spivac an opportunity to show that he belongs in the division spot that he's in right now.
Mark?
Bro, that was some hate.
That was a jump. I was just going to say, that was a jump. That was a jump.
Damn, Serghei Spivac is number 8.
Listen, he stood in the octagon for like 10 minutes just getting wailed on.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah,
it's true.
You're going to have to show a little something. Dontel Mays looked good in his last fight, so...
I mean, yeah, he did, but like before that, he lost to Augusto Sakai. Like, I don't know. All right, I mean, hey, to each their own. I just feel like Spivac getting a lot of hate right there.
I think there are other top 15ers that he hasn't fought yet, though. So
I will say the loser of the Curtis Blades Jailton Almeida fight that I mentioned.
What is he ranked now among the UFC rankings? Number 8. What is he at Priaulx rankings?
I kind of think 7.
Okay.
Yes, 7. So who do they have ahead of him that I don't have ahead of him? Why does it seem like no one? They have Ty ahead of him. Okay. And he beat Ty, so he's I have Ty one spot behind him, yeah. Yeah.
Well.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. In the co-main event of this UFC Fight Night in Paris, France, in the women's flyweight division, a very consequential bout went down between two very talented ladies, and Manon Fiorot came out the victor by defeating Thug Rose Namajunas by unanimous decision. The scorecards read 30-27, 29-28, and 29-28, all for the Frenchwoman, Manon the Beast Fiorot. Omar, let's bring you in first. What were your thoughts of this contest overall? Do you feel that Rose should not have gone up? Do you feel like she looked okay at flyweight? What are your thoughts?
So there were a few thoughts I had watching this fight. Rose Namajunas is very good. Her technique is very good. Her movement's very good. I think that if this was another woman from 115 moving up to 125 in the same situation, I think Manon Fiorot probably would have finished her. And would have gotten a lot more hands on her than what ended up transpiring, which was still quite a bit of hands. I think Manon Fiorot looked large in there. She looked very thick, very filled out, very full of muscle, and she looked like she was throwing significantly more power than Rose was. So much so that the broken finger, or maybe, I don't know if it's broken, dislocated, maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell happened to that pinky came as a result of a punch. That was a missed punch that swiped across her pinky, and that pinky went, pop goes the weasel. So Manon Fiorot is definitely not one to mess with, man. She is very good from the striking perspective. She's decent on the ground as well. Her kicks are really clean. Her punches are really clean. She does keep distance really well. There's not a ton of people that can stand, I feel like, with Rose from a technique perspective. And she not only had the power, but she also did have the technique as well. And you could see the power was super evident every time that Rose and her crashed. Rose was always the one that got pushed back. So it was a rough go for Rose. I don't know if I quickly want to say 125 is not her division. It's obvious that some of these girls are going to be bigger than her, but she does have enough technique that I think she could win some fights at 125.
Yep.
I just think that there are fights at 115 that just suit her a lot better.
For sure. Mark, what are your thoughts of how this contest played out?
So all my thoughts on this fight are kind of incomplete, I guess, is what I want to say. Like, I do think Manon got this done. And the key, I feel, was really just how elusive she was. But it wasn't all that hard for her to be elusive, since Rose became a one-handed fighter like 2 minutes into this fight.
Sure.
Rose can only cut Manon off in one direction for the most part. I thought she had opportunities to throw the right, where normally it would have been key, and she held back from throwing it. And I don't blame her. If she couldn't throw the right, she couldn't throw the right. I'm not faulting her for that. The finger afterward, the picture of the finger looked fucking awful. But I don't necessarily feel bad about the fact that I went out on a limb and took Rose here, because I think it could have gone different if she didn't hurt her hand. I'm not saying it would have. I'm just saying I feel incomplete in what we got out of this fight. Like, I wasn't hugely impressed with Manon the way I'd like to be, saying she just beat Rose Namajunas, what a big deal, you know what I mean? Like, she did her job. Rose was a bit limited. Manon fought the right way, and she got the decision. So it sucks a little bit for Manon, I think, that she doesn't get more buzz off of beating a Rose Namajunas, but again, she fought an elusive fight. She landed her shots for sure. She mixed it up. She did push through a big headbutt that opened a cut, so props to her for that. And she gets a significant W, obviously, but I just feel as if she didn't beat fully, capable Rose.
Yeah, I mean, I took Fior pretty confidently, and at least I felt like I got this one right. Finger aside, pinky aside, I thought the fight kind of played out how I envisioned it. I thought we felt like Fior was going to be the bigger woman in there. She most certainly was. Rose defended herself afterwards on her social media saying, was she a little bit bigger than me? Yes, but she was not too big for me, I think is something, paraphrasing what she said. Did she knock her down? Did Rose knock her down? Or I thought it was more of a slip.
It
Rose
looked more like
that.
a slip.
I don't remember a knockdown in that fight. I was trying to
She fell down. I do remember that Manon Fior was on the ground at least a couple times, to be honest, actually. And she kind of like rolled back up.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like...
For it, to
it didn't really look like she cracked her and dropped her. It looked more like she, if anything, maybe tripped her or something like that. But it didn't look like she cracked her to the ground or anything.
But look, I said this last week, and I'll stand by it. I thought that Manon Fior was arguably the toughest matchup in the top 10, top 5 of flyweight for Rose to jump up into facing. I think that there are other interesting fights that could be more winnable for a Rose Namajunas. I would love to see. I mean, we know that Rose can beat Jessica Andrade, who's now a flyweight. I think Chookagian would be interesting. I think Taila Santos would be interesting, although Taila Santos, as we know, she's a big girl and she can crack and she's very athletic, which could give Rose trouble.
So is Chookagian, dog. Like, I've met Chookagian, or not met, but I've seen Chookagian in person. Mm-hmm. That chick is huge.
Oh, really?
That is a big girl. And I'm not talking about necessarily height, because I'm pretty sure she was wearing heels when I saw her at an event. She was a lot taller with heels on, but she's still like...
I mean, all these girls in this division are strong. Lauren Murphy's a strong girl.
Yeah, dude.
Maya's a strong girl. Macy Barber's a strong girl. Like, there's a lot of strong girls in this division. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Just to finish my point, I'll go all the way up to the top. I think that Alexa Grasso is a more winnable fight for Rose Namajunas than Manon Fior.
Oddly enough, considering she's the champ, I actually think Grasso's a more winnable fight for Rose than maybe about 5 other girls in the division.
Right. Yeah.
Simply because of the way they match up.
Yeah. Yeah. And the size, I think, too. I mean, I do think that if Manon Fior and Rose Namajunas were the exact same size, I would take Rose. But they weren't. And Fior is just, I think, too big, too strong, too athletic for Rose. Yeah. Has Rose said in the aftermath if she's like, no, I'm staying at 125 pounds. I'm going to go back down. Have we heard anything?
She seems to intend to stay.
To stay?
Yeah. Wow. She said that with 2 big black eyes in her face.
Okay. So that being said, Omar, let's start with you this time. Who do you think you would like to see Rose match up with next at flyweight?
So I did think about if she's going to stay at flyweight, I was going to go with Macy Barber. I did think that would be an interesting fight.
Huge for Macy. Huge for Macy.
Agreed. And I think Rose needs a win in that division if she's actually trying to do something. It's one thing to lose to Manon Fior, who's, more than likely going to get a title shot either by the end of the year or early next year at this point with the trajectory she's going. So it's a good start, not a great success, but I think Macy Barber would be a good one for Rose if she does end up winning that fight, and vice versa for Macy, obviously, to get a former champion under her belt.
Mark, what do you think? Any other bright ideas?
Yeah, my answer was Macy, too. I don't think girls like Chukagian or Lauren Murphy are bad options if you want to go more the veteran type of test in this division. But, yeah, I would go Macy, I think.
Man, not a lot of easy fights for Rose in the top 15 at flyweight. I think a lot of things change sometimes when somebody wants to go up and weight. Sometimes it works out well. Like, sometimes people, they don't have to cut as much, but other times it's like, ooh, these people are bigger and stronger than me.
But that's what it is. I think if Rose actually spent time like putting on some muscle, it might be a little bit different. But if she's just not cutting weight, it's not going to do it.
Sure. Okay, let's move on.
Wait, can we talk
my
about
bad.
Fiorot?
Manon Fiorot, the winner here. What is next for Manon Fiorot? Mark, what do you think?
So, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think everyone knows the deal here. It's one that could go a couple of ways. Her and Blanchfield are right there. You got two title contenders.
Yeah.
If Valentina beats Grasso, it probably means we get an immediate trilogy, I would have to guess. I'm not 100% sure of that. If that were the case, then you just go ahead and make Blanchfield versus Fiorot for whoever ends up winning that trilogy, and life is easy. If Grasso wins again, then it gets a lot harder because Blanchfield and Fiorot are really similarly deserving. I do think Erin has maybe been a little bit more impressive, but like Manon is the one that just beat Rose Namajunas, which is a huge name. So I don't know what they'll do. It could go either way. It may just come down to like availability and timing of these girls for whenever the title fight is trying to be scheduled by the UFC. So I don't know. I think you probably wait and you see how this plays out. Maybe one of them ends up being the one that fights Macy Barber if the other's going to get a title shot. But, yeah, I think you got to see what Valentina and Grasso do first.
Omar?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really – there's not really a lot of movement when it comes to her position right now, so that's pretty much as good of an explanation as you're going to get at this point. I guess the only thing I'll add to it is that if it does come down to Blanchfield and Fiorot getting a title shot, my assumption is that unless – I mean, it could come down to anything as small as a venue, right? If a venue is somewhere that it makes more sense for Fiorot to headline as opposed to Blanchfield, they'll probably go in that direction. The only thing I would say is Blanchfield isn't bad on the mic. She isn't bad in front of a camera. As far as selling a fight, she might be a little bit easier to get that done. But like I said, it all really depends on where they're going to end up doing it, when they're going to end up doing it, and obviously what happens with Grasso and Shevchenko.
Okay.
Blanchfield also stayed at 2 in the UFC's rankings for what it's worth, and Manon is 3. So who knows if that matters or not, but if you're interested, Blanchfield stayed 1 spot ahead of Manon.
Okay. Let's move on. In the lightweight division, UFC Fight Night, UFC Paris, Benoit Saint-Denis battering rams his way to a TKO victory against Thiago Moises in the second round, the official time 4:44 of round 2. Mark, what was your impression of this awesome and crazy fight?
I thought Thiago Moises did so well to stand his ground and combat the immense pressure that Benoit Saint-Denis tries to put on you. He clipped Saint-Denis a couple times on counters. He had some nice leg kicks, and none of it mattered. Even once he got taken down, he snatched up a couple leg locks. He was battling Saint-Denis in there, and none of it mattered. Benoit's pressure is just that immense. Like, he really feels like, when you describe a fighter sometimes like as an unstoppable force, that is what Benoit Saint-Denis feels like when you watch him fight. And really that's what he's been in this weight class. His only loss was up at 170. He's undefeated as a lightweight, and he's just such a tough puzzle because he is so willing to walk into phone booth range and trade shots.
Yeah.
And then at that point, he's already on you if he wants to enter for a takedown because he is just willing to eat however many it takes to get on you. At some point, this man's chin probably can't last forever using that strategy, but it's working for him right now. And then he's hell on the ground, as he just showed by hanging with a guy like Thiago Moises and ultimately finishing him with ground and pound. So he's a tough man to stop right now. And in this case, I really think it was when Moises got that takedown, only for Benoit to stand back up like Derek Lewis style, that Moises broke. Like it was all downhill from that moment. You could almost see the will went out of Moises at that moment. But yeah, Saint-Denis is an intimidating human. That was a very big win, very big finish over an established guy, and he's knocking on the door of some rankings here.
Okay, Omar?
Honestly, man, for me, I got the vibe that he was out of it once the blood started running down his face. Once Saint-Denis opened him up, Moises looked like a dude that... There are some guys in MMA, not UFC, but in MMA in general, combat sports really in general, that when they get opened up and they're leaking and they're like smelling their blood and shit, like they don't do well with it. The anxiety kicks in, they start to panic. For some guys it doesn't work well when the blood starts running down their face. And Moises was given those vibes. It might have been already the damage that he had taken, because Saint-Denis came forward like a tank for like every minute of that fight, every second of that fight, frankly. But as soon as the blood starts to just cover the side of Moises's face, Moises looked like he was done. He was not about it anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
I know I fixed the lag, goddammit.
I got messed up for a second.
With us?
Yes. Dude, I said at the beginning of the intro here, Saint-Denis is a human battering ram. And, dude, I was going to make a very similar point. I was like, how good is Thiago Moises? I mean, the dude hung in there as best he could. I thought, as I was watching this, I was like, there was a few moments where Moises threw like a hard check hook or like a check kick. I was like, if that connected, like Moises was throwing heat in return as well.
Dude, he landed on... There was a few he landed where I was like, that should have hurt more than it appears to have hurt.
Right.
Like, he has a crazy chin. If you remember, even in his loss, which was his debut up at welterweight where he fought Zaleski dos Santos, he took and he got battered in this fight. It was not even close. But he took an ungodly amount of damage from dos Santos and would not go away. Like, the dude just absorbs punishment like it's nothing.
Yeah. He's like, I care not. I'm still going to march you down. And
the thing that was making me cringe in that fight, honestly, was every time that Saint-Denis was throwing a body kick, I think it was a left body kick, it looked like he was hitting the bottom of the elbow of Thiago Moises. And in my head, I'm like, Papa, you're going to break your foot. Like, what are you doing? And he threw it once, and I was like, yeah, you probably felt it. You're not going to throw that shit again. He absolutely threw it again in the same spot. Like, Saint-Denis is kind of a madman.
Yeah, I
absolute
agree.
Savage.
He's one of these guys, I think, when you get, especially now, after that, watching that performance and the way he chose to go about that fight with a guy as good as Thiago Moises, I think he's one of these guys where if you get booked against him, not everyone, but some guys are going to have a little bit of like a fuck, like I'm in it right now fighting this guy. Like he has a little bit of that aura right now.
And his corner sounds like they did not want him brawling, and it looks like that was all Saint-Denis wanted to do in that cage.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about matchups. Let's start with the winner here, Benoit Saint-Denis. Mark?
It's maybe not the sexiest in the world. I was trying to think of something that felt a little sexier, but I am going to go with Diego Ferreira. He is ranked number 15 currently. Saint-Denis deserves his shot to break through. Anyone higher maybe felt like a little much, so that's where I'm going to go. I think it works.
Omar?
I'm going to go a little higher, dog. I was pretty impressed by Saint-Denis, man. There was a real durability to him, a real psychosis to his approach that it's very possible he could do some damage in the top 10. And so I was thinking maybe toss him to Arman Tsarukyan and see what he does.
Wow.
Okay. Let's talk about... You guys have anything for...
Tsarukyan would have a fucking fit if they asked him to do that right now.
I don't disagree, but how good would that fight be?
Oh, it'd be incredible.
What about the the opponent here, the guy who came up in the loss column, Thiago Moises. You have anything for him?
I do. I will say Guram Kutateladze. Both of them are coming off losses. Both are clearly talented dudes. I think that's a good matchup.
Omar?
I was looking into the loser of Drew Dober versus Ricky Glenn, which is going down in October in a month. I think that would be a fun turn of events there.
All right, moving on here. In the light heavyweight division, Volkan Oezdemir turns away the incoming prospect, Bogdan Guskov, defeating him in the first round by submission with a rear naked choke. The official time, 3:46 of round one. Omar, start us off. I think we both took Guskov, so we were both had egg on our face again. And Mark, of course, in the text, took no time Oezdemir. So Omar, start us off. What was your take of how this fight played out in the 3 minutes that it did?
Yeah, it's weird. For the main event, if you told me Serghei Spivac was going to stand at one spot basically for 10 minutes, I would have told you were lying. But that's what we got. And if you told me here that Volkan Oezdemir's chin was actually going to hold up when he got cracked in the face, I would have told you were lying. But that's what happened. And as a result, Guskov ends up getting taken down and just getting manhandled on the ground to the point where the punches became a rear naked choke. When was the last time Oezdemir finished somebody with a rear naked choke? I should have looked this up beforehand. But
he only has two subs in his career, so
yeah. It was definitely one of those moments like Jesus Christ. Like I can't believe that was in his
third fight in 2012. I have a question for you guys, not to cut you off. Why do you think because I was listening to the preview, what made you think Oezdemir's chin was so done? Like the only guy that has ever knocked him out is Jiří.
He just never looks great when he gets hit. He's one, and even honestly, even in this fight, the way he absorbs damage and the way that he takes damage and he doesn't defend himself properly drives me fucking crazy. His hands are out here, like I don't know what he's doing. Punches are coming from this angle and from this angle. He gets hit all the time.
No, I agree. He gets hit a lot, but like
he wobbles too much for me.
Take it. Like he just.
What was your question again?
Krylov must have hit him 150 times and he didn't go down.
But he also doesn't he's also not one of these guys that can like absorb the damage and then come back and win. Like once he starts getting fucked up, he just keeps getting fucked up.
Wait, tell me your question again. What was the question?
I was curious what made you guys think his chin was so suspect.
I feel like the times that I've seen him get knocked out, it's like he doesn't take a ton of damage. He just kind of gets finished because
he's only got finished one time. That's why I'm asking. Only Jiří finished him. That's why I was confused.
But
I guess Omar
too,
just explained it. Well, DC was on the ground, different story.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I don't care for the way he takes his punches, and I also don't care for the trajectory the fight goes once he's actually taking a bunch of damage.
That's fair. I get what you mean.
It's not great.
I get what you mean. That the fight
not to mention Guskov was one of these guys
that
was he was coming in with a resume of like murdering people. So
I didn't hate picking against him. I heard you guys make the point of his chin, and I was like, well, I feel like I haven't really seen him get knocked out. So I was just curious. But I get what you mean now that as he starts to get hit clean, he kind of just lets the fight get away. So
now, if I recall, I think he welcomed Jiří to the UFC. That was Yuri's first fight in the UFC.
I think you're right.
He came in and he starched Oezdemir.
Correct.
In the second round.
But he also starches everyone.
The point I'm making is that personally, I'll take responsibility. That might have weighed a little too heavily in my assessment of like the memory of that, because he got rocked real bad by Priaulx, because Priaulx is so fucking good.
Fair. No, I get it though. I was just curious.
And also, like knowing that Oezdemir has been sort of kind of ping-ponging back and forth between wins and losses.
Yeah.
This was by far one of his better performances, but again, his defense leaves something to really be desired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought this was a little bit of a statement by him, actually. Not in terms of the opponent, because obviously we don't quite know if Guskov is any good as of yet. He could be good, but we just don't know.
Pretty good.
We'll see. But I thought it was a statement from him just in the way that he handled the fight. Like he was willing to exchange on the feet. He did eat the shots without issue because he was getting hit.
Yes, he was.
But then he was winning on the feet. He found the bigger shots. He hurt Guskov, and then the fact that he kind of showed off the wrestling and grappling that he can bring to the table also, and just kind of gave you like a solid all-around veteran performance against a guy who was a bit of a wild card. I thought it was a little bit of a statement. Like he got him out of there in no time.
Oh my God, that's 2 now for you, bro. Jesus.
All right. Let's just go with the winner here, Volkan Oezdemir. Omar, looking out at the landscape of the 205-pound division, what do you think could be next for No Time?
I mean, I had written down Johnny Walker or Khalil Roundtree. I'm curious to see where Mark wants.
On Goliath.
Well, so I guess maybe the loser of that fight. But even Khalil Roundtree was. I know we feel like we've used Khalil Roundtree for like a bunch of different dudes in the last few weeks, but I'm interested to see Khalil Roundtree fucking fight everybody in that division at this point.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I sort of want Roundtree to get Anthony Smith. But for Volkan, I'll stick with what I said going into this fight. I said a couple weeks ago that I thought he, with a win here, should be paired against Dustin Jacoby. And I still think that's the right call here, and I think it's an interesting booking. I think Jacoby deserves that step up. I think Volkan, as much as he had a nice win, it was against a debutant, so I think it's still fair enough to ask him to turn someone back who is below him. I don't think we're skyrocketing him up anywhere. So that's where I go, Volkan and Jacoby.
Okay. Omar, any other thoughts? Oh, you went first, right?
I did.
Okay. Let's hop into our lightning round. So if you don't know, our lightning round is where I challenge Mark and Omar to give me their quickest, most lightning takes, perhaps a phrase or two. No picks, just a quick reaction to the fight, how it played out. Okay, here we go.
No picks.
Lightning, no picks. Starting things off in the featherweight division. There's a lot of tough names for me on this card. William, is it Gomes?
Gomes.
Taking on Giannis Gimori?
I don't remember if it was the.
Let's just go with Gimori. Well, he lost anyway, so. Gomes by TKO in the 3rd round. Mark, go first.
This one was competitive for a bit, but even when it was Gomes who was kind of standing out more, I would say. His balance, his fluidity, the friggin' speed of his kicks, it was all keeping him just a bit ahead. And then, I don't know, he may or may not have landed a clean body kick in round 3 to the waistline. It was hard to tell. Unfortunately, the ref handled it like a maniac and clouded everything instead of, screaming at them both, specifically Gimori, to fight on. Yeah. He says fight for like 2 seconds, and then he's just like, oh, no, okay, enough. I don't know. I don't know what that handling was, so a weird ending, certainly, but I think Gomes was ahead either way.
Omar.
Yep, I agree. There's not a lot of times where I advocate for the referee to kind of go full Shang Tsung on somebody and be like, finish him. But that was really one of those moments where I was like, bro, that was a legal strike. Like, send this man in there to do his job, because that wasn't the way to handle that. Wasn't really thrilled. There was a few little refereeing faux pas that went on this night. I think the French Athletic Commission, if there is a French Athletic Commission, needs to tighten up a little bit in that regard. They were a little sketchy throughout the night. This was one of them. But it was good. I thought it was a good performance from Gomes. I thought that kick was clean. He might have caught a little dick graze on the way out, but the kick itself I thought was completely clean.
Yeah, you either got to call low blow or be screaming to keep fighting. You can't just be like, hey, fight's over. Like, Moises, well, wait a second. Like, I would have fought if I knew you were going to say the fight's over.
No, I agree.
I would be so frustrated.
But you also see how quick his dick graze all of a sudden wasn't a problem no more.
I know, it's true.
I'm just saying.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
A few too many baguettes for those refs.
God.
No, don't laugh. That was a dad joke. I'm a dad.
I don't even get it.
I don't either. Okay,
he just went baguette French.
You just wanted to use baguette in a sentence.
I'm just trying to make it like the referee and the commission were like, not into it.
It's the baguette thing.
I love baguettes, man. Come on. Okay, here we go. Get it together. Opening bout of the main card of UFC Fight Night Paris. In the featherweight division, I'm going to butcher these names too. Morgan Charriere. Help me out. Charriere versus Manolo Zecchini. First round knockout for Charriere. Omar, go first.
Wait, is it zucchini? Because I'm pretty sure Paul Felder was saying zucchini all night. I promise you he was saying zucchini all night.
Zucchini. Isn't it zucchini?
It's zucchini, but like when you say it fast, it kind of sounds like
zucchini.
I swear I thought it was zucchini because of Paul Felder all night. Okay. This was an interesting fight, man. I mean, this had shades of Roundtree soccer kicking that dude. I don't even remember who it was anymore at this point. But it had those shades. It was a great little fight. I'm very interested in this.
You're talking about?
Yeah, I don't remember who it was now.
Carl Roberson? Is that who it was?
Very well might have been.
I think it was.
I only see him being launched by his kick in my head. I can't see his face. But Charriere is a very interesting striker, man. He's very measured, very paced. I thought his measured approach was extremely impressive. Not to mention when he actually got that kickoff. I mean he was working the body for a little bit up until that point, but when he got that kickoff, I mean he really fucked him up and then launched another one that just took him off the ground. I thought it was a great performance. I'm really interested to see what this Charriere has to offer.
Yeah, I thought these two made for a really interesting pairing with their striking styles. I kind of wish I had gotten to see some more of it, but Morgan had other ideas, which was unfortunate for the body of Zecchini. And what a display of body kicks we got, man. The left body kicks to start it, then the front kick to drop him, then the right body kick to end it. I mean, my goodness, I love me some body shot finishes, man. That was a hell of a debut for that kid.
Hell yeah, man. Okay, keep going here. Taylor Lapillus, UD handing Cowlin Loughran his first pro loss. Mark, go first.
I was so happy to see Taylor Lapillus back in the UFC and getting to return in Paris. The guy has been one of the best French fighters for years now. It never made sense to me that he got released from the UFC in the first place, which was way back in 2016. It took him so long to get back. He was 3-1 in his initial UFC run. He proceeded to go 7-1 to earn his way back. He beat guys like Josh Hill, Nate Maness, Marcos Breno, Wilson Hayes. Like, the dude is a high-level fighter, and it took very long for him to return for whatever reason. So I was really happy to see him come back, get it done against Loughran. He was too fast, too slick, too well-rounded, too composed, really. And what a hero's response he got from that French crowd. That was a cool moment for him.
First of all,
Omar.
Shout out to that French crowd because, and I've said this before on many of occasions, I've been to a lot of UFC events, not a ton, but enough in the United States anyway, to know that no one in the United States gets to that arena for the first fight. No one. I've been there for the first fight on because I'm a psycho. So I'm there for hours. But that arena's empty, and then you slowly start to trickle in. Once we get to the main card, generally most people are there. Once we get to the main event, generally everybody's there. The French were out in storm from fight one, louder than any football arena, and it's got to be the football, like that soccer mentality, I feel like, because they are all chanting things in unison as like a country. Like, it was hardcore, man. I mean, this was a beautiful crowd. I really enjoyed.
It really was.
I loved it, man. And it really goes to show you how much different it is in something like that than it is at the Apex. Like, you can't, you've got to do these fights with people in the crowd. It's a completely different thing. Yeah. And Lapillus did work, man. I mean, he was definitely the hero in that story. Loughran came in. Loughran came in as definitely the heel, flipping off the French crowd.
Yeah, man,
like
loved it.
jerking off the French crowd. Like, he was bugging out in that weigh-in. And listen, but he played the heel. He played it well. I thought it was fun. He'll definitely be back. I thought he had some promise for sure, but he's young. He's young and he's raw, and he looked it. Lapalus just looked like somebody who had the answers before Loughran could really give him anything to work with. So I thought it was a great performance from Lapalus. I thought he showed real diversity through in his performance, and the French crowd chanting every time he landed a strike was one of the most Muay Thai things I've seen out of a crowd in MMA ever. I mean, every strikes to the thigh, they were like, "Oi, oi!" It was amazing. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I just love the singing. They were like breaking out into full song as an arena during matches.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I wish I understood what was going on, man, but it gave me heavy soccer vibes. Like that must be a soccer culture thing.
The whole crowd attitude in these European countries has stemmed from the soccer vibes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Dude, some of my favorite cards
Or
just,
the football vibes, we should say.
Football.
I mean, there is nothing like a stacked pay-per-view card where like it's like every fight is like incredible and like you are just like so on edge leading up to a pay-per-view. But there's also, I love like a great fight night that like every fight night that's been in London the past year or so.
Yep.
Some of the most memorable events.
Agreed.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, let's go on.
Even the Singapore crowd was good a couple weeks ago.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Oh man, that zombie farewell has got to be one of the we saw Robbie Lawler recently retire, and like that really put a tear in your eye. But that Singapore one might have just been as equally just heart wrenching to watch that crowd give him so much love like that.
Until they stole his glove.
They stole his glove?
Who stole his glove?
On the walkout, he had his gloves in his hand. I guess it was risky from him. He didn't think about it, but I heard him talk about it. He had his gloves in his hand, and he would plan to keep them because they were his final gloves ever.
Oh no!
And someone took one, and then he realized it, and he kind of looked, and he was like, and he threw the other one into the crowd since he only had the one left. But I heard him say that he was pretty pissed.
Dude, that's tragic.
What a dick!
That's tragic. Fuck those fans. Let's go on. Lightning.
Yeah.
How do you say this guy's first name? Is it Eng?
Anglusa. Is it Ange? I thought it was Eng.
Wasn't it?
Or Ong, I guess Ong Lusa.
Ong Lusa out of Congo.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Defeats Reese McKee by
Losa.
Losa. Defeats Reese McKee by UD. Omar, let's catch up here. Give me your lightning take over the last ninja getting it done.
Yo, my lightning take. How close was Lusa to fucking this fight up? Because I mean, he put in work for the first 2 rounds. We got to round 3, and he was like, "Oh, I forgot the rest of my gas at the stool," and he slowed down significantly. And it seems like this is the Reese McKee thing to do, is to like. And the poor guy doesn't look like he wants to fight this way, but he'll drop a couple rounds and he'll spend the 3rd round just trying to come back and finish the dude. And he put in work, man. And that final minute was sketchy for Lusa. That maybe final minute and a half even was sketchy for Lusa. And if he had an extra 60 seconds, Lusa might have very well been out of there, man. So it was a good first 2 rounds for Lusa. That 3rd round was sketchy as hell, but a really fun fight to watch.
Mark.
Dude, the barrage that Reese McKee ate in round 2 made 0 sense. Like, he just stood there. I don't get it. Like, he just was eating repeated shots to the face and was like, yeah, okay, I'm still standing here and I haven't really moved. Like, it made no sense. And then he comes out, as you said, and almost friggin' finishes Losa in the end of round 3 to add to the insanity. I mean, that was a wild, wild fight. But I did have Losa up 2-0 going into the 3rd. I think everyone did. He fought an aggressive, powerful, really well-rounded 10 minutes. Obviously, he faded, but I thought he earned the decision in a great fight.
Okay, Nora Cornoli defeats Jocelyn Edwards by UD. Mark, sticking with you. Take it.
This was a very close fight. It was the leg kicks and clinch work of Cornol versus the wrestling of Edwards. I thought Nora did enough to take round 1. I thought Edwards took round 2 without much trouble. And then I thought round 3 was really, really close. I know there's been a lot of robbery talk online saying that Edwards got robbed. I didn't think so. I thought it was just a really close fight where both girls tried to grind it out. And, it comes down to round 3, which I thought was hard to score. And one girl's going to be crushed and the other's going to be elated. And that's the way it goes. And it was Nora who got the moment in this one.
Omar.
Yeah, I thought overall Nora had done more damage anyway. I thought Edwards, even with the wrestling that she showed in that fight, didn't really do a ton of damage or anything with it for the most part. At least not up until I think there was a part where she almost got a rear naked choke, and that might have been in the second round. I'm not entirely sure. But other than that, I thought Cornoli just did a little bit more work, was a lot more active. I wasn't impressed with the fight as a whole. It felt very sparry, give or take.
Good point.
But yeah, that's what I took away from it.
Okay, Farid Basharat, round 1 submission over Kletzen Rodriguez. Omar.
Dog, Farid Basharat's a beast. Like we need to move this kid up the rankings, like for real, because he's an absolute fucking animal. There's the decision to go to the ground and the way that he systematically worked his way into the position to set up that arm triangle choke with like no real resistance. I mean, he needs to move up. We need to see him against some competition that's significant, I think, at this point.
Mark.
Yeah, these Basharat boys are good, man. They're very similar fighters, honestly. And aren't they are they both? Yeah, they're in the same weight class. That's weird. You don't see that every day. But yeah, they're both really well rounded. They can appear like surgical in there at times, like they're in control of everything. And that's exactly what we saw from Farid here. You know, Kletzen was battling. It took a couple takedowns for Farid, but by the second, when he found his opening, for the arm triangle, immediately swung both legs over, and Kletzen was caught. It was a beautiful win and beautiful overall performance for Farid.
Okay, last one, Jacqueline Cavalcanti, UD over Zara Farron. Mark?
I was trying to look who Victor Henry was supposed to be fighting. I was trying to look who Javid Basharat was supposed to be fighting. I know he had a fairly big fight, and it was Victor Henry, but it says it's canceled now, so that sucks. Anyway, Farron was too slow. That's really all there was to it. Too slow, too methodical. She took too long to get from the generation of the strike to the strike actually landing. And they just looked like they were operating at two different speeds all fight. And Cavalcanti was able to land on that to take all the rounds. So it wasn't anything unbelievable from her. She was just better athlete, faster. And that's 0-4 now for Farron. So I imagine that's probably it for her.
Yep. Omar, take us home.
Yeah, another fight that I felt like was very sparry. Cavalcanti did just enough to kind of, make the points work and landed a lot from the outside. Try not to get too much damage taken from Farron, Farron was generally the bigger fighter in there, and I thought Cavalcanti did a good job of not letting that really affect her throughout the fight. She did get hit with a what was that? With a Three Stooges. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, I did.
But she got hit with the right in the nose or right in the both eyes. The right one, I think, took the real amount of damage, though. Credit to her for fighting through and still coming out the victor in that fight.
Okay, and that does it for this week's lightning round. And now let's put a bow on UFC Fight Night by finding out who rose and fell in Mark's rankings. Mark?
So I got 2 weeks worth of updates for you. There's really not as much movement as you would expect from 2 weeks worth of cards. A lot of people kind of beat people who were below them, and therefore neither man moved all that much. So all we got is 4 risers, and it's 2 from each card. Going back to the Singapore card, Junior Tafa moves from number 31 to number 24 at heavyweight after knocking out Parker Porter, making it so that both Tafa brothers have a knockout over Parker Porter. My man, Michal Oleksiejczuk, moves from number 39 to number 33 at middleweight after finishing Chidi Njokuani. And then flipping over to the Paris card, Nora Cornol obviously was unranked. She debuts at number 17 in my women's flyweight rankings after beating Jocelyn Edwards. And the last one, Benoit Saint-Denis, moves from number 24, working his way up steadily, to number 18 in my lightweight rankings. Go. So he is just outside of top 15 for me.
Nice.
And that is all she wrote.
Sweet deal. Okay, let's keep this thing moving right along, and let's talk about stuff that's going on outside of the cage in the world of MMA. Omar, let's jump into the Sphere.
Let's do it. Paul Felder has officially re-entered the USADA testing pool.
Really?
He did, yes. He said he's
Wow.
doing it just in case. Apparently he's working and has been working with Michael Chiesa and rolling with him and things like that, and training MMA again and getting back in there. And I get it, man. That's not, it's when you start doing this stuff, it's not something you can just switch off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get the itch, especially for somebody like Felder who's like in there all the time and watching it. And dude, I sit in the fucking stands sometimes at these amateur events, like thinking about it all the time. And Felder's already been in there, so I can only imagine how much he itches watching and being a part of the the action half the time, being in that arena. So it'll be interesting to see if anything happens. It sounds like he's not really trying to do anything. It basically sounds like if somebody, from his age group, from his era, something happens, an opportunity arises, maybe it's something that he wants to take, but he's not trying to make a run or trying to fight any of these young and up-and-comer guys or anything like that. So I wouldn't expect him anytime soon, but something might formulate from it.
Do you know who I would love to see him fight
Jim
at
Miller?
155 pounds? No. This is probably not realistic because the other guy is still at the top of the game. Max Holloway.
Why?
Jesus.
I would fucking love that fight. Just the striking exchanges. That does
At
nothing
lightweight?
for you. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I guess at lightweight it might. I don't know. I think Max might light him up, dude.
He might. But, I don't know. It wasn't that long ago that Felder was an active fighter. Was it 2 years? It's not like he's washed.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years.
I don't know. Maybe I overrate Felder. His striking is
No,
so
dude,
fucking pretty.
I
Him
love
and
Felder.
Max exchanging strikes, sign me up. And
Bro.
it's been longer than I thought. It's almost 3 years since his last fight.
His second fight in
And-
UFC, he's spinning back fisted Danny Castillo into another dimension, and I was like, "This is my guy."
And it's
From
been
there
almost
on out.
4 years since his last win. The Edson Barboza one's a little sketchy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't make a ton of sense, but I don't know. I was trying to think who would I love to see him exchange striking technique with, who would not take him down. And then my brain latched onto that one, but yeah, probably not happening.
Yeah.
His wins over Edson Barbosa, James Vick, lesser-known guy named Charles Oliveira, who bounced between featherweight and lightweight. I don't know him that well.
That's the claim to fame right there.
I
He
feel
beat-
like he bounced Charles Oliveira's head off the canvas with the elbows.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Paul Felder, not bad at fighting.
No.
Beat Darren Cruikshank back in the day, bro.
Dude, that's my
That's-
guy, too.
Yeah, that's a name right there. Oh, wow. He beat Kama Worthy way back when, before it sounds like Kama Worthy was even anything.
Is Kama worthy
That's
something?
wild. Well,
No offense.
damn.
Damn.
That was rough.
Kamal Worthy finished his career 19-10
Well,
with
he's
14
not finished.
finishes.
He might
Yeah,
be.
he's still
Not
going.
finished. He's still
still
going.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, where were we here?
Yeah, let's move along.
What are we
didn't-
doing?
We went right off the rails here.
Spearing, sorry.
Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor awarded his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt from longtime coach John Kavanaugh.
Nice.
It was a nice little award ceremony. If you haven't seen it, it's on his Instagram or Twitter or both, or at this point or whatever. But it was really nice. One of the few moments you'll see Conor probably being normal at this point. So
Oh, cool. Good for him.
it was nice. Let's see. Oh, a little. So apparently, and this is kind of fucked up. I don't even know why I started laughing. It's not nice. But Ciryl Gane apparently got robbed while he was winning in Paris.
Oh, my God.
So as it turns out, his house had gotten robbed at the same time as the main event started.
Oh, my God. That's awful.
And well, apparently they're thinking that it's an inside job, that somebody from Gane's camp kind of set up the whole thing with the robbers, and that potentially gave the schedule
No
and
way,
everything
really?
about. Yeah, that's the speculation right now. But apparently they forced themselves in through the front door, and they took about $166,000 or 150,000 euros worth of shit, including jewelry, Rolex watches, and stuff like that. But yeah, they're saying somebody from Gane's entourage might have directed the robbers to do these things.
How awful.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up. So God help the person who actually, if there is somebody in his camp something tells me somebody's got an ass beating waiting for them. So, God help them.
Yeah, man.
Next on the list, our good old Laura Sanko is officially joining the pay-per-view commentary this weekend at UFC 293. She will be making her commentary debut alongside John Anik and Daniel Cormier. Super happy for Laura Sanko, bro. She's put in work for like years at this point.
Dude, I love how first of all, I love how the UFC now has made it accustomed to have two people doing color. Along with whoever they have doing play-by-play. I think that's a great touch. It's just a little bit of an extra dynamic on the table there. And she's great, man. I'm so excited for her. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
and she trains, so it's like she kind of knows what she's talking about.
Omar? I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
It's Laura Sanko, DC, and John Anik.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, she absolutely knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
All right.
What else you got?
Let's see here. Okay. So, I don't know if you guys have heard about Rampage lately or if you've seen Rampage in the news. Yeah. But Rampage is trying to come back for maybe one more fight. I believe he's trying to do it for, I don't know if it's for charity or for a lot of money or both, because both of those things are equally important to Rampage.
Of course.
But what is interesting about this is that if you remember way back when Rashad Evans and Rampage were on Tough together, this was the season with Kimbo Slice, for those of you who might remember it that way instead. And Roy Nelson, who obviously ended up winning the Ultimate Fighter. But one of those fighters on that season was Daryl Schoonover. I never knew how to pronounce this kid's fight. His name was Titties on the show.
Oh, that guy.
See?
Isn't it sad that that's how I remember him?
Look at what Rampage did, bro. That was like 10 years ago, and people still know him as Titties.
That guy, that poor guy.
That's now
rough. That you say that, like you said his name, I never would have guessed who he was. You say that, and I'm like, I can picture him right now. That poor guy.
I saw the announcement. Are they boxing or fighting in MMA?
As far as I know, I thought it was MMA because I remember him talking about it with Ariel. So I thought it was MMA. I don't remember it being specifically boxing. The thing that's crazy, though, is that Titties hasn't fought since 2015.
Don't call him Titties.
I can't pronounce his name, and that's what everybody knows him as. That's not my fault.
Schoonover.
His guy wasn't even that bad.
It wasn't.
Rampage was.
It wasn't, but they were all heavyweights. They were definitely being a dick. He was bullying him for the entire season.
He's Rampage.
So this is he was talking wild shit to Rampage though. Like he was talking about how he was gonna knock him out and all kinds of stuff, and like I get it. Rampage is fucking with you, but like it's also Rampage back then. Like Rampage would have definitely slept that kid like badly. Well, but that's not the point. The point is now it's 2023, and he might just have a chance. So that fight very well might be happening, and we might see that grudge match officially go down.
Wow. And I hope I hope afterwards they bury the hatchet.
I mean, maybe 14 years later, people still calling him Titties. I don't know if you can bury that hatchet, my guy. It's pretty bad. You can't take that back. Can't roll that one back. All right, we have just a couple of fight announcements. Not a lot of fight matches have been made, have been put together. It seems like, and I'm assuming it's probably because it's towards the end of the year at this point. But we do have Montana De La Rosa fighting Stephanie Egger. That will be happening at UFC's Vegas card on September 7th. On that same card, Philippe Lins versus Ian Kuntelaba has been added to the card. And that, gentlemen, is all we got this week.
That's all we got.
That's it. Let's make sure nothing actually showed up in the last goddamn hour.
Yeah, check. Okay. We're on a good pace to go to bed early-ish.
Yeah, especially since this pay-per-view is whack.
I mean, it has some nice ones. I
think it's terrible.
Let's talk about it. Okay. Well, we are on the precipice of a pay-per-view, UFC 293, Adesanya versus Strickland, going down on Adesanya's home turf in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. Well, even though Adesanya is he's from New Zealand, right?
Yep.
It's still his neck of the woods in the world. Headlined by Israel Adesanya putting his UFC middleweight title on the line against one Sean Tarzan Strickland. We are going to preview and discuss, looks like about 6 of these bouts out of the 15 or so. Looks
12?
like, wait a second, 12-ish. Before we talk about the 6 we're going to talk about, are there any other fights or fighters that you guys would like to just quickly spotlight for our viewers and listeners?
Omar, you may go first if you wish.
I mean, the only one that really catches my eye, honestly, that I'm looking forward to, I guess, ahead of time. I'm sure there'll be a lot of fights that end up being really good, but the Jamie Mullarkey-John McDessie fight is the one that kind of catches my attention a little bit. That one I'll probably be more purposeful in making sure I don't miss.
I will mention, I agree on that one. And John McDessie is wild. I feel like he fights like once a year and just fights forever. Like he's been in the UFC for at least 50 years.
He jumped out at me too on this card.
Huh?
He jumped out at me as well. His first fight in the UFC was in 2010.
Oh,
yeah, it feels longer. I thought it was gonna be
longer.
I thought it was gonna be like 2007 or 8, honestly. But like, I'm pulling him up. I truly feel like he fights once a year. He just pops up. There he is one time. Yeah, literally, one fight every single year. I'm not joking. Every single. Okay, the last time he had 2 fights in a year was 2016.
You're right. Wow, you're
That's
right.
wild. I swear to God, I didn't look at that before.
Wow.
That's crazy. He literally fights
I
once a
wonder
year.
what he does.
And it'll be once this year because he ain't gonna fight again. It's already September.
I imagine he probably either owns a gym or coaches and does classes and stuff and is a martial arts instructor or something like that.
How old is he? I just closed it now. I wanna
38.
38. Yeah, he's almost coming to the
From
end.
Montreal.
And
I
Mark
did
is
my
top-notch.
I did my honeymoon in Montreal. Great town.
I did my bachelor party in Montreal. Great town. Yeah, I will spotlight Jack Jenkins against Chepe Mariscal. Chepe debuted up a weight class. Looked really tough. He beat Trevor Peek, but he gets Jack Jenkins here, who has looked really good. Dude rips people's legs apart. But Chepe's in there to scrap, so I'm interested in that fight for sure.
Nasrat Hakparas is also on this card. He, at one point, I want to say, was a somewhat up-and-coming lightweight that a lot of people had their eyes on. He has dropped a few. He got back in the win column over John McDessie last year, and he's on this card again. So I'll be watching that one for sure as well.
Yeah, he's fighting Landon Quinones, Omar. He's the only prospect from this season of Tough that I have seen that got a fight. So I'm not sure why he was the choice, but yeah, here he is.
And he was one of the ones that lost too. Well, obviously they all lost.
All
He was one of the ones that lost. Yeah,
besides the Shulo, but yeah, he got tapped out by Jason Knight.
Yeah. That's what I meant. They all obviously eventually lost.
Well, they all lost their first fight. Besides,
Yeah.
the Shulo.
Oh, yes,
he was the
the
only
first
prospect
fight.
that won.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this cord. I mean, the fights we're going to talk about, I like some of these fights, Mark, and it has like one of your boys on this card. I know. All right, first fight.
The main card has 3 stupid fights out of 5 on it. Like, I understand there was injuries, but like, I don't know.
I also get it, right? Like, it's not that the card is bad, but if you're gonna keep raising pay-per-view prices, you're gonna have to make the pay-per-views worth it. And this to me doesn't scream like
at least put the
$80.
Ulberg and Jung one on the main card, so I feel like I'm paying for that instead of giving me that one for free.
Yeah.
Instead, you gave me Justin Tafa and Austen Lane.
Yeah, or Tyson Pedro fighting a guy who's 0-2. Like, I don't know.
Okay, let's begin. The featured bout on the prelims of UFC 293 in the light heavyweight division, Carlos Ulberg taking on Da Woon Jung. Ulberg, the Black Jag, the 32-year-old out of Auckland, New Zealand. He's 8-1 as a professional with 6 knockouts. He's riding a 4-fight win streak. Coming into this weekend, he is 4-1 in the UFC after winning impressively on the Contender Series. He's looking to keep things going over Da Woon Jung, the 29-year-old out of South Korea. He's 15-4 with one draw, with 13 finishes, 11 of them knockouts, but he is looking to get back in the win column after dropping back-to-back fights against Dustin Jacoby and Devin Clark. Omar, start us off this time with a quick take and a pick of Carlos Ulberg against Da Woon Jung.
I think it's a great fight, to be honest. I think Da Woon Jung is a really fun and exciting fighter. I think sometimes he could run into issues where he relies on the one big strike a little bit too much, because he does have it, but I don't think he does. I don't think he always does a great job of setting things up properly, and I think people take advantage of him as a result of it. Carlos Ulberg, though, is one of those guys that I think will end up trading with him. I do think that Ulberg should be a little bit more on the technical side, but I don't necessarily see Ulberg taking down Da Woon Jung or clinching with him a ton, or some of the things that I think Da Woon Jung has kind of had to endure in his last couple of fights. So I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg on here. I think the striking should go in his favor, but for being honest, man, Da Woon Jung has probably just as much likelihood to knock out Carlos Ulberg as Ulberg does Da Woon Jung. So It's a real coin flip in that situation. But I'm going to take Ulberg. I'll do it second round KO.
Okay, I'll go next. I've gotten a little too confident in my picks because I had been leading our little group here for too long. But
down to 4, baby. I'm narrowing it.
I'm going to make this pick a bit more emphatically than Omar. I'm also going to be taking Ulberg, but I see this as a bit of a mismatch. Remember, Ulberg, thinking back to that fight against Kennedy Nzechukwu in his first fight in the UFC after Contender Series, Ulberg was piecing Nzechukwu up in that fight up until the moment that he got caught by Nzechukwu, which goes to show, even at 205, this may not be heavyweight, but these are big boys, and anybody could get knocked out at just about any time.
He also gassed very badly.
He did gas in that fight as well.
Knockout.
That's true, too. But up until that point, he looked very, very impressive. And he has looked very impressive ever since finishing 3 of his last 4 opponents. And if that fight did go his way, he would be a 9-0 undefeated prospect. I think the guy's a future star, and I think that was a major course correction after that. And I don't think Da Woon Jung is it. And I think he's going to run Da Woon Jung over. I think he's going to be the much faster striker in there. Give me Carlos Ulberg by knockout. I'll say end of the first round. Mark?
Yeah, so Ulberg is a pretty big favorite. Bigger than I even thought he'd be. He's minus 280, and Jung is plus 220 as the underdog. Same height. Jung actually has the 1.5-inch reach advantage. But, I'm closer to Mike here. Jung is not bad at all. He obviously KO'd Nzechukwu, who is the only man to hand Ulberg a loss to this point. So if you want to use MMA math, you can end up on Jung. But I think that the technique level of Ulberg is going to be a lot for Da Woon Jung to handle. Like, look what Dustin Jacoby did to Jung, another guy with high-level kickboxing similar to Ulberg. I think Ulberg's going to kind of do the same thing. He's a guy who seems to really be rounding into form in a scary way, and I think he continues that here. And if he does, it's time to move this man up the line. If you look at his little string of fights here, it's kind of like the babiest of steps fight to fight. I'd like to see him get a jump here if he's impressive again, and I think he will be. Round 1 knockout.
Round 1 knockout. Okay, we are unanimous for Tyson Pedro.
For Carlos Ulberg.
Oh. Okay. Next bout, Tyson Pedro.
Tomatoed Carlos Ulberg and Tyson Pedro. Damn.
The next bout, Tyson Pedro taking on Anton Turkalj. Is that how I say it? Turkalj?
Yeah, Turkalj. Isn't it Turkalj?
I thought it was Turkalj. Because
Turkalj.
I feel like I remember wondering why it's Turkalj when it's a J. But I could be wrong. Maybe they fixed themselves. Maybe they were the ones fucking it up.
The much more important part of his name is his nickname, which is the Pleasure Man, according to Sherdog. Okay, let's set this up. Also in the light heavyweight division, Tyson Pedro versus Turkalj. Pedro, the 31-year-old out of Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. 9-4 as a pro. All finishes in the win column there. 4 knockouts, 5 submissions. Looking to hop right back in the win column after dropping a decision against Modestas Bukauskas back in February of this year. He's been back and forth with wins and losses in the UFC since he joined up in the UFC back in 2016. He will be standing across from Anton the Pleasure Man Turkalj, the 27-year-old out of Gothenburg, Sweden. He's 8-2 as a pro, with 7 finishes, 5 of them knockouts, and he is looking to very much find his first UFC victory here after winning on Contender Series. He has gone 0-2 thus far in the UFC, most recently losing to Vitor Petrino back in March by decision. Mark, start us off this time.
So, oddly enough, I guess not oddly, because Tyson Pedro looked very bad in his last fight. The favorite is the man who's 0-2 in the UFC so far. Anton is minus 120. Pedro is minus 105. It's nearly a pick on both guys. You're paying the vig on either guy. But, yeah, I was surprised to see that. It is a 1-inch height advantage for Turkalj, if we're going to say it that way. 1-inch reach advantage for Pedro. And Tyson Pedro better win this fucking fight. If this man has any intention of doing anything relevant in the UFC, he better win this fight. He looked truly awful in his last fight, and he cannot afford to lose this one if he's going to go anywhere. So I do think he was sick going into the last fight, if I recall. I remember I was telling you guys something about the fact that I read that, but now it's escaping me. Something about that he was sick during his weight cut and almost didn't go out there. So I'm going to choose to throw that performance out the window and focus on the prior ones and trust that he can get this done. He had looked good prior to that Bukauskas fight. He had me excited for what he could do. And I'm just going to hope that he reignites that here, because I have not seen anything from Turkalj that makes me think he is going to be a factor in this division. And I believe Pedro can, I'm not saying he's going to be a world champ or anything, but I think he can beat guys who are at least, bottom tier ranked guys from what I've seen in his good performances. So I will say he gets it done. I'll go with a round 2 TKO with ground and pound.
Omar.
So for context, Tyson Pedro contracted gastroenteritis.
There you go.
Before his last fight. He was basically shitting himself and vomiting.
Right, that's what it was. Yes, right. I remember that's what he said now. Yes.
Dude was probably hella dehydrated, because it's pretty bad. Anyway, Turkalj is one of these guys that is looking to crash, right? He's looking to close the distance. He's looking to grapple. He's looking to clinch more than likely. Not necessarily on the ground, but he's trying to not allow too much space with him and his opponent when they fight. And Tyson Pedro is one of those guys that I think works best, obviously, at range. I think if Pedro can find a way to keep the range, or at least work well in the clinch, I think he can do well in this fight. I think the approach from Turkalj is pretty obvious. So I think if Tyson Pedro is prepared properly for this fight, I think he can do well. So I'll go with Tyson Pedro as well. I'm going to do a round 1 KO.
Yeah, we're unanimous on this one as well. I like Tyson Pedro in spite of the fact that he's only 5-4 under the UFC banner, but I think the guy can crack. And I think this is a close fight, but I'm just going to roll with Pedro here, and I'll say Pedro gets done by UD. Okay, Justin Badman Tafa taking on Austen Lane. It is a rematch. These two faced off just back in June, but the contest ended within 30 seconds because of a nasty accidental eye poke. I believe Tafa poked Lane's eye.
Other way,
my bad. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
Okay, so Tafa is still a pretty big favorite. I should have looked what he was in the last fight. Actually, how quickly can I see this? I might be able to see this very quickly from my notes on the prior fight, because I'll tell you why I'm curious. I didn't have it. I didn't write the odds down for the first time they fought. So, yeah, the reason I say that is because Tafa is still minus 220 right now, and Austen Lane is plus 180. And I wonder if that's tighter than it was the first fight, because I do think from what we saw in the first fight, granted it was very short, but it looked like the size and the athleticism of Austen Lane were going to be a problem for Justin Tafa. He was getting kicked to the body repeatedly. I mean, I say repeatedly. Again, the fight was about 30 seconds, but he ate like 3-4 kicks to the body, whatever it was. He was getting jabbed when he tried to close distance. It seemed like he was maybe going to struggle. And, it doesn't mean a ton. It's early in the fight. Tafa could settle in. Obviously, he's got huge knockout power. Lane's fairly unproven. So, I don't know. I don't even know who I want to pick here. I'm just surprised the odds are still that Tafa's more than a 2-1 favorite after what we saw. I don't know. Lane looked big and mobile for sure. His chin is up high. It's out there to be hit. That's exactly what Justin Tafa is in there to do. Oh, I'm very torn. I will say that Austen Lane gets it done by a decision.
Okay. Dude, I'm a believer in these Tafa boys, man. And I'm just going to keep rolling with these guys until they fall off, until the wheels fall off right now. Austen Lane is a newcomer. He won on Contender Series. He has had a pretty impressive pro run thus far. At this point, what is he? He's 12-3 so far as a pro. That being said, don't have any other tape of him in against UFC competition, but I'm going to roll with the big man, Justin Tafa. I still have that memory seared in my brain of him finishing Harry Hunsucker by kicking through Harry Hunsucker's block of the head kick, and it still took his soul. I believe in the Tafa brothers' just power and the ability to just find their shots, and I think they have a sneaky kind of speed, hand speed.
Oh, I agree.
I'll take Tafa round 1 knockout. And it has happened to Austen Lane before in his career, so I think it happens again. Okay, what do we have next?
We have Omar to make a pick.
Oh, my bad. Omar, go. Sorry.
We need a flag. Don't forget me. I get the hesitation that on the pick itself, because Austen Lane is a very athletic human being. I just don't know if I trust him not going through the fire, and I think Justin Tafa is one of those guys that's probably gonna put him in the fire even after one punch. So I trust Tafa a little bit more, especially if we're talking about who can hold their own even in a gunfight here. So give me Tafa. I think it's gonna get scrappy. I don't think it makes it out of the first round. I think they're gonna wail on each other for quite some time. And I think it's going to be pretty violent, pretty quick, and over in that same amount of time. So, Justin Tafa, round 1, KO.
Okay, moving down to the flyweights. From heavyweight all the way down to fly, we have Manel Starboy Cop taking on Felipe Dos Santos. Manel Cop, the 29-year-old out of Angola, 18-6 as a pro, with 16 finishes, 11 of them knockouts, riding a 3-fight win streak dating back to 2021 coming into this weekend. Felipe Dos Santos, Lipe Daytona is his nickname. No idea what that means. Undefeated prospect coming into this weekend, 22 years old, out of Brazil, Alagoas, Brazil. He's 7-0 with 1 no contest. And this is his UFC debut. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take and your pick of Cop welcoming Felipe Dos Santos to the UFC.
Yeah, I think at this point it's really about Manel Cop being able to get a fight. And so it's whatever's up for grabs here, and Felipe Dos Santos is stepping into the mix in order to get that fight going. But as good as the resume looks from Felipe Dos Santos, I just think Manel Cop at this point is really just looking for his next meal. And so it's going to be hard for me to really pick against Manel Cop here. So I'm going to go with Manel Cop, second round TKO.
Okay, Mark.
So Cop's a big favorite, as expected. He's minus 385. Felipe Dos Santos is a plus 295 underdog. 2 inches of height on the side of Dos Santos. I couldn't find a reach for him. Yeah, man, this fucking poor guy, Manel Cop. He cannot get a fight against anyone. Every single booking he has falls through. Most of the time, it makes him not even be able to fight. Thankfully, he finally gets to at least stay on a card here. So I guess thanks to Dos Santos for stepping up and letting us actually get to see Manel Kape fight instead of him just being canceled like he has about a million other times. Obviously, this was supposed to be Kai Kara France. I don't know if one of you guys already said that, but that would have been friggin' amazing to see. But unfortunately, this is what we got. Dos Santos is a shoot-to-box guy. Shoot-to-box guy. Can't speak. He wants to scrap. I think that could make it entertaining while it lasts, but I think that probably bites him here because Manel Kape is just very, very good, and I think he will more or less do what he wants. His technique will shine, and he will hurt Dos Santos. So I will say Manel Kape, round 2 knockout, and I hope, assuming he gets an impressive win here, I hope he really gives a passionate promo about what he feels he deserves, because this guy's ability to move up the ranks has been completely taken away from him over the past couple of years because every chance he's supposed to have falls apart somehow. And he needs to vocalize that on the mic and demand a very big fight.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that he that these are the lean years for him, that he finds himself in a place where he starts to have some fat years in terms of things going his way and fights coming together. And able to put like a decent streak together in a decent short amount of time, so that he stays in people's memory, he stays in the promotion's memory, and he stays fresh. I see no reason to not roll with him. He's an incredible talent, and I think he's going to turn away this prospect and hand Dos Santos his first pro loss. I'll say that Dos Santos lasts until the 3rd round, but Kape is just too good. He's going to overwhelm him. And let's say club and sub round 3.
Just real quick before we move on. The last 7 bookings for Manel Kape. April 2022, he's supposed to fight Sue Maderji, canceled. June of 22, he's supposed to fight Rogerio Bontorin, canceled. December of 22, he finally fights. He beats David Dvorak by decision. March of 23, he's supposed to fight Alex Perez, canceled. July of 23, he's supposed to fight Davison Figueiredo, canceled. This card's supposed to fight Kai Kara France, canceled. And now he's getting this. Fucking 5 of his last 6 bookings were cancellations.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Excuse me. Okay, moving up to the heavyweights. Tai Tuivasa taking on Alexander Volkov. Tai Tuivasa, Bam Bam, the 30-year-old out of South Wales, Australia, 14-5 as a pro, 13 knockouts. That's right, only one of his wins has gone the distance. He's looking very much to get back in the win column after dropping back-to-back fights, both in last year, and now he's back. Looking to get back in the win column over Mr. Alexander Volkov. Drago, the 34-year-old out of Moscow, Russia. Record stands today at 36-10 with 24 knockouts. And he is also riding a 2-fight win streak coming into this weekend, finishing both Jairzinho Rosenstrike a year ago and Alexander Romanov this past spring. I will go first, and I will say this. I'm very torn on this fight. I think this is a very interesting matchup. I think this could be a great fight. I'm very interested to find out the spread for this fight because I have no idea who should rightfully be the top dog here. I'm guessing it's going to be Volkov since he has a 2-fight win streak and Bam Bam has a 2-fight losing streak. That being said, both of these guys. Yeah, sure.
Volkov minus 250. Tai Tuivasa plus 200.
Okay.
That's aggressive.
Pretty wide.
Hey, it's a winning streak versus a losing streak, even though his losing streak was against Ciryl Gane and Pavlovich.
I think it's
other
the
than
matchup,
that,
personally.
Tuivasa has
horrible.
You think the matchup is horrible?
For Tuivasa, I think it's a terrible matchup.
Oh, you do? I don't think so, but I don't feel confident about this pick, but I will. Man, I can so easily envision Tuivasa landing some bombs on Volkov. But Volkov, man, he has looked so goddamn impressive in his last two outings against Rosenstrike and Romanov, just looking surgical. Romanov wasn't a tremendous win because Romanov came in looking like a super out of shape, man. But then again, Tai Tuivasa has a couple of ugly losses on his record. He lost to Blagoy Ivanov back in 2019. Not his best moment. I'm going to make a conservative pick. I'll say Volkov by UD. I hate it. I want to take Tai so bad, but I want to make a smart pick. Omar, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have the same thought process, too, about wanting to pick Tai. Volkov, for me, is definitely the smarter pick. It's, from a stylistic perspective, Volkov likes to play on the outside. Tuivasa can't play on the outside with a guy like that. A guy with a long, rangy jab, a guy that knows how to move around, a guy that knows how to use his lateral movement. Volkov, though, has shown flaws. He's not perfect. I think he's not the kind of guy that can go 15 minutes without making a mistake. And I do think that if he does make a mistake against Tai Tuivasa, he's definitely liable to hit the canvas. So like I said, Volkov is definitely the smarter pick. You guys know better. I don't do smart picks. Let's go fucking Tai Tuivasa, second round KO. Let's do it.
Oh, man.
Love it.
So I shared the odds already. 5 inches of height and 5 inches of reach on the Volkov side, as expected. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Ty's probably going to lose again because MMA sucks. Like, Volkov looks really good right now. He's arguably in the best form of his entire career. I mean, he's Swolkov as well. He's much bigger than he was. He's a tough matchup for Ty. Now, granted, I have always believed in Ty, even when he had that early string of losses. And his current streak against Ciryl Gane and Serghei Pavlovich, as Mike kind of alluded to, is Ciryl Gane and Serghei Pavlovich. So it's not like he's suddenly fallen off a cliff just because he lost to those two guys. And prior to them, it was 5 straight knockouts. Now, all 5 of those guys were definitely more knockoutable than Volkov, I would say. So Volkov probably falls in the middle ground between those guys and the two that just beat Ty. So I guess in that regard, it does make this a good test for Ty to see exactly where he's at. And I do love that he's at home here. I feel like he draws great energy from fighting at home. But, man, for him to get inside and KO Volkov is a big ask. It's not impossible, but I don't think I can pick it as much as I would like to. I think the reach and the size of Volkov is going to help him keep Ty at bay for the most part. I think he's going to be teeping the fuck out of Ty's body all fight long. And I think he's probably going to be handling things for the most part. The only question I have is just, even if that is all happening, across 15 whole minutes, can Ty find a moment? Because all he needs is one. If he finds one, he can end it. But I'm going to have to say it's a Volkov UD.
Okay. And the last one here, in the middleweight division, in the main event, UFC 293, it's going down. Israel Adesanya putting his UFC middleweight championship on the line against Sean Tarzan Strickland. Okay, Adesanya, the great, the last style bender, one of the brightest stars, maybe the biggest star in the sport, in the promotion at this point in time. The 34-year-old out of Lagos, Nigeria. His record stands at 24-2 with 16 knockouts. Most recently, getting one of those knockouts against Alex Pereira back in April of this year, getting his revenge finally on Pereira, knocking him out in the second round, grabbing his middleweight title back from Poatan. This time, he will be standing across from Sean Tarzan Strickland, who finally has made it all the way up to that middleweight title shot. 32 years old, out of Anaheim, California. 27-5 as a pro. That's a damn good record, man. That's a damn good record for Strickland. 11 knockouts, another 4 submissions added to that. And he's riding a 2-fight win streak coming into this title fight. Okay. I will go first once again. I'm not picking against Adesanya, especially in this matchup. I'm just not. I just can't. Sean Strickland, if there's anything that needs to be said, is that he has a pretty unique style to me in terms of a fighting style. He has a pretty unique style overall. But he always presents a little bit of a tricky puzzle to his opponents in how he stalks you. He's a bit of a counterpuncher. He's kind of pesky. He's not a one-hitter quitter kind of guy, but he does have some knockouts on his record because he does kind of drag you into quicksand quite a bit. But I just cannot see him doing that against a guy who has such elite kickboxing skills in Ciryl Adesanya. And I don't see Sean Strickland employing any kind of wrestling. That I don't remember the last time I saw him even try to initiate a takedown. The guy's a brawler. He's a scrapper. And I see him getting pieced up a bit by Adesanya. And I think Adesanya very well could finish him. I could see this going the way that it went against Cannonier when Adesanya beat Cannonier, of Adesanya kind of being content to kind of just score and win on the outside and kind of just pick him apart. But you know what? I think this is going to be a little personal, and I think Adesanya shows out in this fight. And I'm going to say he gets Sean Strickland out of there. I'll say a third round TKO for Ciryl Adesanya. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. So the odds are pretty wide, wider than I even thought. Izzy is minus 650. Sean Strickland is plus 480.
Yeah, that's about right.
In my mind, I was thinking like 4 something and 3 something. I didn't think it was going to be quite that big. 3 inches of height for Izzy, 4 inches of reach for Izzy. This is a fun fight for me. I'll admit I like this fight. I think that Sean Strickland presents more of an interesting challenge than it seems like the masses generally do. From what I've seen thus far in regard to this fight, it seems like everyone's kind of just picking Izzy in a walk, and I'm picking Izzy too. But I think it could be interesting and maybe even a fun fight. Like, Sean Strickland knows how he has to fight this fight, and that's just to do exactly what he always does, to walk forward, to try to crowd Izzy, to pressure him, to make it a little ugly, to not get caught by a big shot. Like, these are all things that Sean Strickland does in every fight he's in, except for the Priaulx fight where he did get caught by the big shot, but generally speaking. So all he really has to do to make this interesting is to successfully play the game he usually plays. Now, I don't know if he can against Izzy, but if he does, I think this could turn into a pretty entertaining fight. And of course, it's going to be a huge risk for him to be walking Izzy down. I mean, just ask Pereira, which has happened to him. But it's the only way he wins this fight. That or introducing a bit of grappling, which I'd honestly really like to see him try to do because he is a good grappler, but he doesn't love to grapple. So I'm not sure we actually see him try that. He actually just shitted on jiu-jitsu today in an interview. I don't know if you guys saw that. They were asking him about, isn't he a black belt? And he was like, yeah, but jiu-jitsu doesn't work, so fuck that. So, like... So yeah, I don't know if we actually see that. It would make it even more interesting if he was willing to try that. But after saying all of that to explain why I think that it's a fun matchup, I do certainly still favor Izzy simply because he is better. His technique is higher level. His timing is better. He's faster for sure. He carries more power. You know, the boxes are still all checked for Izzy. And as much as Strickland is hard to hit and hard to hurt because he rolls with punches so well, Izzy's the kind of striker who hits you with the one you don't see, and there's no rolling with that. And that's ultimately what I think will happen. I think Izzy will set something up. Sean won't see it coming, and he will go down. Prior to that, I think Izzy probably rips at the legs where he can to try to slow Sean's advance. I think we'll see him be pretty patient early just to try to get the timing down and test some setups. But eventually I think he finds it. I will say as well that it is a round 3 TKO.
Omar?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that you have to remember about Izzy for me is the entirety of the fight, he's generally trying to set up traps. And I think in a lot of respects, some of the guys that he's fought don't necessarily run into his traps, and the criticism then is who goes first, right? I don't think Sean Strickland is the kind of guy at this point. I think we've seen him in all these fights. He's very aggressive. He's going to come forward, and he's going to force Ciryl Adesanya to fight. And I think that's when Ciryl is at his scariest, if we're being honest. Israel reacts very well. I think his reactions in moments in split seconds, I think, are fantastic. But like I said, again, the traps, I think, are what make him one of the more dangerous strikers in the UFC at this point. He sets guys up, I think, without these guys even realizing they're about to get set up. And I think something similar to what happened to Strickland against Pereira is probably what's going to end up happening here. I simply think that the power of Pereira just made it happen a lot sooner than it will against Adesanya. But I think Adesanya's striking is going to be a little bit too clean, and his range management should be a lot better than Sean Strickland's as well, and he should have the length to take advantage of that. So I'm going to go with Adesanya, obviously. I'm going to go with second round TKO here. The thing that concerns me about any fight with Sean Strickland is that his crazy ass could pull something wild out and just land something stupid and win, because we've seen it happen before. We've definitely seen him win entire fights, every round of entire fights, using that little modified Philly shell that he uses, that only he uses in MMA. But I think against somebody like Israel Adesanya, he's going to have a lot of trouble doing that. And so I think the only way he's going to win this fight is if he does dumb or unorthodox things, which Sean Strickland is very capable of doing.
Okay.
Did we do it?
All right, boys.
We did it.
That does it. We did it.
We did it.
Boom.
We've done it again. Let's end with a little bit of trivia, and we're getting out of here before midnight. Oh, my God. Tremendous.
Love it.
Okay. I have a little trivia question for you guys. Israel Adesanya holds the little record of most knockdowns in a single title bout. He holds this record, as you might guess. This is not the question. In his bout against Kelvin Gastelum. Who can guess correctly how many times Israel Adesanya knocked down Kelvin Gastelum in that title fight? Should I do Price's Right rules and say closest without going over, or just closest? Or whoever
I think
gets
if the numbers are too
low.
I mean,
Do closest. We're not getting choices, right? We're just throwing out a number.
Just throw it out, baby.
I think it's 3.
I think it's more. I think it's 4 or 5 is my debate. I'm going to say 5.
What are your final answers? Is your final answer 3?
3 and 5.
It is a tie.
Ah, shit.
Because it is 4.
Son of a bitch.
Damn, we're
And
close.
that's that.
I got a
And
trivia.
that's that, guys. That's
I got a
that.
You got
trivia. that
trivia?
I just stumbled into it because I was looking at something. I don't know if either of you will get this, but
Probably not.
I'll ask it quickly. Sean Strickland has only been finished twice in his entire career. They were both by knockout, I should say. I'll give you that clue. He was not never been submitted. One, obviously, was Alex Pereira. Who was the other?
What's the other one?
It was in the UFC. I'm not pulling some, like, back in the day shit.
It's pre-pandemic, yeah?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. I think
give
it's
you-
from his
I'll give you a
welterweight
clue.
days.
I give this guy props any chance that I get.
Who, Strickland or the guy?
The guy.
You give him props?
Yeah, that's his clue. Like if Mark gives one fucking guy props.
He's one of my fighters that I always bring up pros about him if I get the chance, because I feel like he doesn't get the chances that he deserves.
Well,
Not Manel-
if it
not
were,
Manel
it
Kopp.
sounds like Manel Kopp is what it sounds like.
It was not Manel.
Manel Kopp is a flyweight.
It was via spinning wheel kick and follow-up punches. So there's
Oh, that was
Wait.
Oh,
okay. Hold on,
wait.
I'm pretty sure this
that
was
bitch has a
in-
beard. He has a beard.
What? A
EDZ.
welterweight?
EDZ.
yes.
Who's
Ali-
EDZ?
There's no D.
I don't think those are the initials, but he knows who I'm talking about.
Alizu Zaleski dos Santos.
EZDS.
Dude, I was going to pick confidently. I thought Kamaru finished him at welterweight.
You thought Kamaru threw a spinning wheel kick?
No, but I thought Kamaru knocked him out.
Oh, no. Kamaru beat him by decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking Zaleski, man, on this episode. I gave him the love for beating the shit out of Benoit Saint-Denis, and now for Sean Strickland. I'm telling you, this guy is fucking nasty. He never gets his chances. Although he's fighting Renat now, but he's probably going to get eaten, which sucks.
What a name. It's like 3 ethnicities in one name.
Yeah.
Elizu Zaleski dos Santos.
Yeah.
It's like, is he like a Russian, Jewish, Brazilian? Like, what is this name?
He's really only got beat once in the UFC, like truly. Because I definitely thought he beat Muslim Salikov, which was a split. And then the other loss was Nicholas Dalby, which was a close split. I don't remember what I thought there. But really, only fucking the Leech. The Leech finished him.
Huh. Wikipedia doesn't tell me about his ethnicity. I'm kind of curious because his name is Zaleski dos Santos.
I mean, he's from Brazil. I know that.
Right.
Yeah, born
And
and
he
raised.
seems Brazilian.
Yeah.
He's from, yeah. Anyway, our audience doesn't want to watch us Wikipedia people.
Zaleski appears to be a Polish name.
Totally.
Which is
It
interesting.
says the maternal family name is Zaleski and the paternal family name is Dos Santos.
So maybe he is Brazilian and Polish?
Maybe.
Could
Yeah,
be.
sure. Totally. Brazil's a bit of a melting pot. His nickname is Capoeira because he apparently trained in Capoeira very young.
Sure.
Capoeira.
Sure.
All right, boys. Enough.
We did it.
Enough of this.
We did it.
Enjoy this kind of mediocre pay-per-view this weekend, everybody.
Oh, now it's mediocre before you liked it so much.
I kind of, the main card I like. The rest of it is kind of fine.
It's always fun to watch guys with the hometown crowd behind them. So even though the
Hell
Pedro
yeah.
fight is random and the Tafa fight is random, like they'll have big support. Hopefully it'll still be
Yeah, man.
fun card.
All right, folks. Get home safe, everybody. And I'll talk to you guys next week.
Good work, boys.
Peace.
Peace.